Welcome to the Control-Alt-Society podcast. You have probably been told, likely on multiple occasions, that the absolute secret to business success is building something timeless.
Right, the classic premium asset.
Exactly. The conventional wisdom says you have to create this premium thing that appreciates, something generations will cherish. But, well, there's this famous quote from the legendary investor Michael Burry that completely flips that logic on its head.
Oh, the streaming wars quote.
Yeah. He basically looked at the landscape and said, Disney produces wine, Netflix produces milk.
Which is funny because, analysts usually use that as a massive criticism.
Right, like an insult.
Yeah, the implication is super straightforward. Wine gets better with age. It's a premium, timeless asset. Whereas milk is, it's highly perishable.
It spoils.
Exactly. It spoils if you leave it out on the counter. So the traditional conclusion people draw is that a business producing milk is inherently unstable and that they desperately need to pivot to a wine strategy like building a century-old catalog of IP if they want to survive.
But the mission of today's deep dive is taking that exact analogy and just turning it inside out. We are unpacking this fascinating economic thesis that argues the exact opposite.
It's a total inversion of the traditional investment thesis.
Right. It argues that in a pure play digital attention economy, producing milk is vastly superior to producing wine. Striving to emulate that legacy IP model is actually a trap for these platforms.
It really requires a fundamental rewiring of how you value media and subscription models, because a subscription model doesn't actually reward how much you love one specific movie.
No, it monetizes frequency.
Exactly. It rewards the sheer volume of times you log into the platform.
Which is why, as a platform strategist, I look at this and realize you cannot view a company like Netflix as a traditional Hollywood studio. It's just the wrong framework.
So how do you frame it?
They operate way more like a low-churn infrastructure utility. They've built what I'd call the habitual default.
The habitual default.
Yeah, think about your own habits for a second. When you pull out your phone in line for coffee, or when you collapse on the couch at night, you open certain apps without even consciously deciding to.
Right, you're just avoiding silence.
Exactly, it's by default.
Right.
And that habitual behavior really exposes the vulnerability in the traditional approach, which our source material calls the special occasion trap.
Oh, that makes sense. Because, vintage wine is for a special occasion.
Right. You don't pop open a $200 Bordeaux on a random Tuesday night to drink with a microwave pizza. Wine has friction. And Disney's whole ecosystem is tethered to these massive, high-friction event blockbusters.
Like the next $200 million Marvel movie.
Yeah. Or a huge Star Wars cinematic event. But the structural flaw there is, well, what happens when you look at the calendar and there's no blockbuster for 3 months?
Engagement just falls off a cliff.
Exactly. If
Yeah.
you only signed up for The Mandalorian, the second that finale airs, the utility drops to zero. You cancel. But milk is completely different. Milk is the grocery staple strategy.
Right, because you don't agonize over buying milk.
No, you don't stand in the dairy aisle contemplating the narrative arc of the 2% gallon.
Yeah.
It's an automatic, habitual purchase. It just sits in your fridge week after week, making sure your basic needs are met.
So by flooding the platform with this relentless, high-velocity volume of perishable content, true crime, reality dating, mid-budget thrillers, they position themselves as the background noise of modern life.
Exactly. They aren't trying to win an Oscar with a show about baking cakes that look like shoes. They're engineering daily utility, making sure you open the app just to have something on while you fold laundry.
But wait, let me play devil's advocate here.
Go for it.
If a platform is just pumping out disposable reality shows and true crime hits, doesn't it become the junk food of the streaming world? I mean, don't you eventually destroy the prestige that justifies a $15 price tag?
You'd think so, right?
Yeah, like if you drive the brand value down that far, aren't you begging users to cancel and look for quality elsewhere?
Well, that assumes modern consumers consistently prioritize prestige over immediacy. And the data just doesn't support that. Which brings us to this critical concept in the attention economy, the decay horizon.
Ah, the decay horizon.
This is fascinating.
Yeah. When you look at the telemetry of how people actually consume media today, cultural relevance decays at a terrifying speed. Modern attention has this highly compressed half-life.
Driven mostly by algorithmic dopamine loops,
Yeah.
right? And the infinite scroll.
Exactly. So the perishability of the content isn't a bug in the system, it's the intended feature.
Right, because the criticism that this high-volume content spoils completely misses the psychological reality of modern consumption. I mean, think about the user's state of mind.
Exhausted.
Totally exhausted. You don't want to sit down and watch a beautifully aged, demanding masterpiece like Citizen Kane on a Tuesday night after a brutal 10-hour workday.
Oh, absolutely not. Tuesday at 8 p.m., my cognitive load is completely maxed out. I am not looking to be intellectually challenged. I want a mental off-ramp. Right, you want something easily digestible, highly stimulating, and most importantly, culturally immediate. You want the dopamine hit of the current zeitgeist.
The water cooler show.
Exactly. You want to watch that absurd reality show everyone is tweeting about so you can talk about it on Slack the next morning. And by leaning into that rapid decay content, the platform basically forces you to keep your subscription.
Because to participate in this week's cultural conversation, you are required to drink this week's milk.
Yes, which paints a really bleak picture for legacy players holding on to vaults of timeless classics.
It really does. Having a library full of rich, aged wine suddenly looks like this massive burden in an environment that demands constant, disposable novelty.
Our sources actually refer to this burden as IP shackles.
IP shackles, wow.
Yeah, because a company like Disney is dealing with severe brand paralysis. I mean, sure, the wine strategy gives them a high floor. Characters like Mickey Mouse or Luke Skywalker have multi-generational resonance.
You can bank on them.
Right, but those same assets create a massive structural ceiling. A legacy studio is paralyzed by the weight of its own billion-dollar properties.
Because the IP is all interconnected. If a new Marvel movie flops, it's not just one bad box office weekend.
It's a shockwave.
Yeah, it sends a shockwave through the whole ecosystem. It hits toy sales. It devalues the theme park expansion. It ruins the licensing for backpacks.
And beyond that, they just can't pivot.
What do you mean?
Well, a legacy brand built on family-friendly magic can't suddenly pivot and fully fund a gritty, ultra-violent true crime series or like a raunchy reality show. It would totally fracture the brand identity they spent a century building. They are permanently shackled to the cow.
Shackled to the cow. That's a great way to put it. Whereas a pure-play digital platform has a total blank canvas. Since they're only in the business of producing milk, they have zero emotional attachment to the cow itself.
Not at all.
If a genre stops working, they don't mourn the IP, they just deprecate the cow.
And this brings in the mechanism of algorithmic agility.
Well,
We aren't just talking about basic Nielsen ratings here. These platforms ingest insanely granular data.
like completion velocity.
Exactly, completion velocity. Did you binge the whole season in a weekend, or did it take you a month? They analyze the exact timestamp where you paused and never came back. They track skip rates. The algorithm builds a highly accurate decay horizon for every single asset.
So the second the data shows a genre is dropping off, they just instantly pull the funding and pivot.
Instantly. They can seamlessly transition a user from a massive prestige drama about the British monarchy straight into a cheap reality show where hot people aren't allowed to touch each other.
And it causes zero brand confusion.
Zero. Because the brand identity is the platform itself. The brand is the utility. It's not the specific IP sitting on the servers. Your loyalty is to the delivery mechanism, not the characters.
Okay, but wait, if we pull back and look at the sheer scale of this, there is a glaring math problem here.
The production costs.
Yeah. If your whole model is churning out fresh, milk-producing hundreds of shows and just mercilessly throwing them away the second they spoil, shouldn't that bankrupt you? How do you sustain that volume globally without just vaporizing your cash?
Well, that's where the localization advantage comes into play. Think about the timeline of wine again. Fine wine takes decades to mature.
Right.
Disney basically spent the last 100 years painstakingly building the emotional resonance of its characters, mostly in a Western framework. It took generations of theatrical releases, VHS tapes, and theme parks to make Spider-Man a global icon.
And a tech platform doesn't have a century to spare.
Exactly. But operating purely on data and digital volume lets them bypass that century fermentation entirely. Because they aren't precious about protecting legacy IP, they don't need to spend $200 million on one global blockbuster.
They just spread it out.
Right. They can greenlight 50 highly localized, lower-budget projects all over the world. A thriller in Germany, a drama in South Korea, a heist show in Spain. They throw it all against the wall and let the algorithm find the audience.
Which turns the platform into this massive viral catalyst.
Yeah.
I mean, this explains those out-of-nowhere phenomena like Squid Game or Money Heist perfectly.
Oh, absolutely. When you look at the anatomy of Squid Game, it wasn't built on decades of comic book lore. There was no nostalgia factor. It was engineered for immediate viral consumption.
Just pure cultural impact out of nowhere.
Because the digital infrastructure is designed to take localized content, instantly dub it into 30 languages, and then use the algorithm to hyper-target the exact micro-demographics globally that will engage with it.
Creating an overnight flash fire. It dominates the cultural zeitgeist for exactly 4 weeks. It drives millions of signups, spawns a billion memes, and then it just fades away.
And the platform does not care that it fades away.
Because the pipeline is already queuing up the next localized hit to replace it. Yeah. The content doesn't need to be remembered in 50 years. Its only job is to convert subscribers today.
It's the ultimate rapid decay milk strategy.
Okay, I understand the algorithmic agility, and the global scaling makes sense on paper. But I am going to push back hard here because we have to talk about the physical world.
Okay, let's get into it.
A pure-play digital platform has basically 0 secondary revenue streams. Let's look at the legacy players. Disney has this sprawling physical ecosystem: theme parks, cruise lines, physical merch.
Right.
What happens when Netflix hits a wall with global subscriber growth, when every single person on Earth who wants an account already has one, and they have no physical ecosystem to fall back on? Aren't they incredibly vulnerable?
See, I'm going to argue that in a pure-play attention economy, secondary monetization of physical assets is a dangerous distraction.
Distraction. Are you kidding? You're looking at a multi-billion-dollar theme park division that just prints money and calling it a distraction.
Yes, because of the massive physical capital expenditure, the CapEx, and the crushing overhead required to maintain it.
But they own the whole vertical.
Sure, but at what cost? Building a Star Wars theme park means pouring thousands of tons of concrete. You have to buy real estate, hire thousands of people, negotiate with unions, manage supply chains.
Oh yeah, it's a physical business.
And it depreciates physically.
Yeah.
Steel rusts, rides break down, you're dealing with weather disruptions. It's this incredibly slow, heavy undertaking that ties up billions in capital and completely destroys your ability to move quickly.
But they capture every dollar spent inside the gates. A digital platform is leaving billions on the table by not monetizing their relevance in the physical world.
But they don't have to leave it on the table. A platform with what we call digital liquidity extracts the value of the physical world without carrying the physical liability.
Wait, how do you extract physical revenue without building the infrastructure?
Licensing.
Oh.
Yeah.
Because their brand identity is the platform itself, they can capture the upside of a global hit without pouring a single ounce of concrete. They just license their algorithmic hits for physical experiences and force someone else to carry the CapEx burden. Right, we're already seeing this, like the Stranger Things interactive mazes.
Exactly, or the money heist escape rooms. They partner with existing theme parks to build branded lands, and the digital platform just collects a massive, high-margin licensing fee.
Let a third party take on the risk of buying the land and paying the staff.
Precisely. And here's the kicker. If that specific show loses its cultural relevance in 3 years, the digital platform isn't stuck holding the bag on a billion-dollar roller coaster nobody wants to ride.
They just walk away.
They deprecate the physical license, they tear up the contract and spin up a new deal for whatever the algorithm says is the next big hit. They maintain total digital liquidity. It is a wildly more resilient model for an era where tastes can change over a single weekend.
Wow. When you synthesize this entire deep dive, it just paints this stark contrast between 2 radically different philosophies of value creation.
We really have to stop judging digital utilities by legacy metrics.
Yeah, a wine strategy works perfectly if your ecosystem demands deep, multi-generational emotional investment to drive physical secondary revenue.
Like, if your whole model relies on selling a $60 stuffed animal to a kid, yeah, you absolutely need that slow-fermenting emotional connection. You need the timeless IP.
But for a pure-play digital subscription model, the milk strategy isn't just viable, it is structurally superior. The goal isn't to create timeless art for film historians to analyze decades from now.
The goal is utility. You win by creating a product so consistently fresh and so deeply embedded into a user's habits that they can't imagine functioning without it.
It really is the ultimate utility comparison. When a platform masters the habitual default, they've made their content delivery so necessary that canceling the subscription feels exactly like tuning off the running water or shutting off the electricity to your house.
Right, you wouldn't even consider doing it. The daily friction of living without that background noise is just too high.
When you own the daily habit, you own the consumer. It is the strongest economic moat you can build in the attention economy today.
Completely agree.
As you look at the architecture of the value you provide to your own clients, customers, or audience, it really forces a critical evaluation of your own strategy. In your own business model, are you forcing your users to wait for an occasional event, or have you made yourself an automated daily necessity?